Hare Krishna. Do we need to turn this up a pinch or? No, I'm asking. Can you all hear me? Loud and clear? All righty. In the way of housekeeping, if you have a cell phone, you'll be amazed to find it has an off button on it. You can just click that off. In our temple in London, our one outside London, Bhaktivedanta Manor, they always make this announcement, shut your cell phone off. Everybody ignores it because it's human nature to ignore these things. And then they say, and if your cell phone goes off during the talk, there's a donation box, you can put 10 pounds in it. And you'd be amazed, everybody reaches into their purse and into their pocket and shuts off their phone. And the other thing is that, oh, there were some kids here. Did I scare them away already? All right. Sorry about that. Every kid gets 3 strikes, 3 spontaneous outbursts. But it's I don't mind. I raised 2 kids. But it's a distraction for the audience. So Tyler wants me to give, he wanted to give an introduction. I think pretty much I'm known to this audience, and yet you still stayed. But I was the temple president here for many years, and then now I'm a member of our ISKCON's international governing body, which means if anything goes wrong, it's my fault. You can let me know. Don't worry. And I was initiated by Srila Prabhupada in 1970, and there it is. I took sannyas by Krishna's grace. Sounds like a cell phone. There you go. You get it. It's a freebie. It's 2 phones. Look at that, man. Check that out. Nah, don't worry about it. Okay, so now this talk, the first half is going to be a little heavy. It may be a downer for some of you, but don't worry, we're not going to leave you there. And as the saying goes, if you want to cure a disease, what's the first thing that's necessary? You have to have a good doctor, you have to have medicine, okay, fine. But what else do you need if you want to cure a disease? What do you need? Diet, okay, that's good. Diet, medicine, good doctor, okay, all those things. Who said diagnosis? Way to go. You got to have the right diagnosis. So we're going to talk about, if we're honest with ourselves, there's a lot of anxiety and tension. Prabhupada says the basic existence in life is eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. These are the animal activities. Everybody eats, sleeps, mates, and defends. And of those 4 items, defending, Prabhupada also defines as fearing. There's always, why do people slow down when they see an accident on the freeway? They're thinking, there but by the grace of God go I. Because this is a dangerous and troubling world, actually. So there's a lot of angst and anxiety and loneliness. Loneliness is a big factor. It's one of the biggest factors when they do surveys of people. What are their issues? What are their, Anyway, I heard an advertisement on the radio, NPR, National Public Radio, and it was 10,000 therapists are waiting for you, for your call, with depression and relationships. And I was thinking, hey, there's often a relationship there. There's also a connection. The relationships are causing the depression. Or we're depressed because we don't have a right relationship. So these natural conditions of human life, stress, anxiety, fear, loneliness. We're going to talk about those. So that's where we're going to start. Now, let's see. And if you, I heard a nice short parable from Badrinarayan Swami, one of our senior monks. So remind me at the end of that I want to just share that. So help me remember. First, I should offer some respects and prayers for mercy from my teacher, my spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Tanamane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharani Nirvasesha Sunyavari Paskachada Satarani Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Dvaita Gadara Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Om Gyanate Marandasya Gyana Gyana Salakaya Jakshu Shun Militan Gena Tazare Shi Gurave Namaha. So, Prabhupada gives the example, Srila Prabhupada, my teacher, founder of the Hare Krishna movement, he gives an example that, well, let's take Vaishnava Das here. Here's Vaishnav. He's a graduate from the Navy. He's a very responsible man, well-trained, responsible. I'm not being sarcastic. If I give him a lump of coal, and I say, Vaishnav, and he's strong, he's got some muscles, he's still a young man. I say, Vaishnav Prabhu, can you scrub this coal and make it nice and white for me? Well, what do you think? How's that going to end up?
It'll take quite a while.
It'll take quite a while?
It'll keep you occupied.
It'll keep him occupied. He can wear that thing down to a nub. It will still be black. I can give him Ajax Super Cleaner. I can give him the deluxe, I don't know, brush, fuller brush. Why will that coal remain black? Hare Krishna. No matter how much energy he puts into it. It is the nature of the thing. So, we are living in this world, just like fish are in water. They don't know they're in water. I don't know if they, I haven't talked to too many. I guess a dolphin could tell you, but, if you could communicate. But it's the atmosphere, it's the very thing that they're swimming in, existing in. So we're living in this material nature. It's the atmosphere in which we live. And its nature is, let's just look at it. Couple elements. This is the cold reality, the analysis of where we, you go to a mall and it says you are here. If you know where you are and you know where you want to go, you got to know where you are. If you know, okay, I want to go here or there, but where am I? And how does everything fit together? It's called Sambandha Abhideya Prayojan in the Vedic different progressions. I've got to know the status of things, I've got to know my relationship, and I've got to know the goal. So let's start off with, what is the nature? What is my look? Where am I? And what's going on around me? Now, because I did think about this, I took some notes. You know the story of Buddha. Buddha's actually a prince in India. And astrology is actually a bona fide science. You know what the problem is? Finding a good astrologer. Because what you've got now, to be an astrologer, completely pure, completely surrendered, strict in one's principles, generations of training. It's not, so now what you've got is hodgepodge. I'm not going to ask you to go read your horoscope and think it's true. But in those days, there were accurate astrologers. And when the boy was born, when a child is born, especially in a royal family, they call astrologers and what is the future of this child? What will be their nature? What's their future? And they said this child Soon as he reaches adulthood, he's not going to be the prince. He's not going to become a king. He's going to leave everything and become a mendicant and renounce everything. So that, the king, he wants progeny. He wants someone to carry on the kingdom. He was shocked. He said, why? He said he will see 4 things in the world and try to solve them: birth, death, disease, and old age. It's the big 4. Birth, death, disease, and old age. So his father's conclusion was, well, if he never sees these things, he'll never be moved by compassion to try to help them, relieve them, or figure them out. So they always kept him in the palace grounds. Now there were 4 times, I forget the exact purpose, he was taken outside of the compound of the king, of the palace grounds by his teacher. First time he went out, he saw someone old age, it's no fun, not for sissies, old age. And he said, what's that? And his teacher said, well, that's old age. He said, well, that happened to me. It happens to everyone. That was a shock. Next time he went out, he saw someone dying. What is this? He said, well, this life, tide and tide wait for no, time and tide wait for no one. Well, that happened to me. Yeah, it happens to everyone sooner or later, some sooner than later. Someone said to Prabhupada, sooner or later, I will surrender to Krishna. Prabhupada said, better sooner. Do you know you have a later? Prabhupada used to say, anybody here got a certificate from Yamaraj, the Lord of Death? We got a certificate, so sooner or later. Well, that happened to me, definitely. Next time he went out, he saw someone diseased. Did I say diseased yet? Saw someone diseased. Will this happen to me? Definitely. He saw, a child crying, just born, struggling. The first greeting one gets in this world is a nice slap on the rear end. And there's plenty more where that comes from, buddy. What? They try to get the child to cry so that lungs will fill, But the point is that birth, death, disease, well, that happened to me, that will happen to me. And as soon as he was old enough, he left the palace to try to find a solution. So it's woven into the fabric of the place. Prabhupada says there's 3-fold miseries. If one doesn't get you, it's like a triumvirate. There's one, and it doubles down on, like what they say, triple strength. If you buy something that's triple strength, man, that's it's triple strength. So there's miseries caused by other living entities, little bugs. Somebody drops a bomb on your head, you get mugged on the street. A husband dumps you, runs off with his nurse. All kinds of weird things happen in this world. So there's miseries, big and small, caused by other living entities. There's miseries caused by the material nature. It's too hot, it's too cold. Tidal wave. There used to be a section in the San Diego Union. You could look at it along with the weather page. Of course, now everything's online. And it used to give you the disasters of the previous day. It was amazing. Forest fires, hurricanes, earthquakes, sinkholes, tidal wave. It was just like, whoa. You don't want to step outside without a crash helmet after you read that thing, So miseries caused by the material nature, miseries caused by other living entities, and miseries caused by the mind and body. Wait till you get old. When you're young, little kids, their body's kind of like a Gumby toy. They're just having bending around, having a great time. When was the last time anybody over 50 skipped? Any of you go skipping down the street? It's not happening, Maybe 30, I don't know. When do you stop skipping? Kids, they're skipping all the day. What do it doesn't last long. So that's miseries caused by the body. But the Vedas say that miseries caused by the mind are even worse. Fear, anxiety, fear of missing out. Everybody's having a great time and they didn't invite me, or, whatever it is, J. Paul Getty, at the time, the richest man in the world. You know what his view of the world was? Of human relationship, which is the real succor, the real, satisfaction, loving relationships. Love makes the world go round. He said there's only 2 types of people in this world. people you pay to stay with you, and people you pay to stay away from you. I mean, that's a pretty miserable way to look at the world, you know. But so he was always in anxiety. People want his money, you know. So there's so many things. Will you love me when I'm 64? Probably not. Get old and wrinkled, you know. They lock it in, wasn't it? In sickness and health, for richer or for poor, better or worse, buddy. You can't back out. You're locked in. That's a sign right here. So, misery is caused by the material nature. Misery is caused by the mind and body. Misery is caused by other living entities. Birth, death, disease, and old age. I mean, it's getting pretty grim. And what in Sankhya Yoga, which is a section of the Vedas, which is an analytical analysis of, it's one of the most profound understandings of reality. It's described in the Vedas. It's called Sankhya Yoga, and you'll find the best explanation in the Bhagavad Purana by teachings of Kapila Deva. But it explains there that of all the different elements, like, you know, if I'm making a soup, I got all the, like dal, let's say, I got the beans, I got the water, I got the nice tomatoes, I got all the spices, you got to have a little ghee, you got, you know, some veggies, throw in a few veggies, make it nice. So you got it all together. When you put it all in the pot and turn it on, what do you got to do? Or it'll burn. You got to stir it. So this whole material nature of all the different elements, everything, you know, what is it? Earth, fire, water, the Mahabhuta, earth, fire, water, air, ether, mind, intelligence, false ego. There's all kinds of different factors going on. 3 modes of material nature, different working senses, active senses. The Vedas analyze the whole thing. So you got that whole thing in a stew. And just like you got to stir the dal, what is stirring this material reality? What's stirring it? Who said time? Hey, 10 points. Time is stirring the whole thing. And what is the nature of time? What does Krishna say in Bhagavad Gita about time? Time I am, the destroyer of the world, the destroyer of all things. Time and tide wait for no one. So, and the Bhagavatam gives an example of the influence of time. You know, we're thinking, and I don't mean to deprecate the value of family and all that. Don't get me wrong. But let's look at the thing honestly. We're talking about an honest analysis of where we're at. And what, because these are the breeding grounds of loneliness, anxiety, mistrust. So many, what's the breeding ground for the whole thing? That's this world that we're in, this atmosphere that we're swimming in. That's the breeding ground. So, what was I going to say? So, current of time. You see a river is flowing, and sometimes there's a little cross current or a little eddy, and some sticks and leaves, they're gathered together. You've seen that? Got that picture in your mind? And the current will change, something, and they're all separated. Or in the ocean, the seaweed will come together and intertwine, and the current will change and it's all separated. The current of time, oh, this is my nation, this is my family, this is I'm an American, I'm a Russian, I'm Gujarati, I'm Chinese, I'm a Republican, I'm a Democrat, I'm an aristocrat, from whatever, whatever it may be. All of that is just brought together for a few moments actually by time. And then it's all going to be separated. That's just reality. Now, they used to have a TV show when I was growing up. It was called King for a Day or Queen for a Day? I forget what it was called. Was it Queen for a Day? Gotcha. So, and you got to be king for a day or queen for a day. I don't know what, you got to ride around in a Rolls Royce and you got to live in a Beverly Hills mansion and But it's only for 24 hours. Could you really relax and just get into the groove? They were trying to squeeze as much as they could as fast as possible. Nobody slept. Why sleep? You're only king for 24 hours, queen for 24 hours. So we want a permanent status. That's what we're actually looking for, what is it called? Because the soul is stanu, or stable. We're also, or, permanent status. We're looking for a stable, permanent status. Nobody wants to, okay, fine, I'll feel good for 24 hours. I'll feel great for 24 hours. And the rest of the time, if I feel miserable for the rest of my life, I don't care. Does anyone say that? Everyone's fighting to the last minute to sustain, to maintain. Why are they exercising? They're over there jogging. I live right next to a gym, 24-hour, not 24-hour fitness, I forget what it's called, but, people are pouring, they're in there. Why do they pour in there at 5 o'clock in the morning on Monday morning? Because, Yeah, because we're not against health, but, they're trying to fight rage against the effects of time. There's a wrinkle, got a little fat here, ate a little too much, got a hangover. Getting a little flabby, got to get in there and, in it. But how long? So we are looking for a permanent state of happiness. And yet, Buddhists say nothing is certain but change. In the Christian tradition, dust to dust, ashes to ashes. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, my point is that all these traditions say the same thing. Bhagavad Gita says this material world is constantly mutable. We already nailed it that it's under the influence of time. And even under the influence of time, musical chairs, wasn't musical chairs? They play the music, but there's let's say there's 12 participants owning 11 chairs. When the music ends, if you don't got a chair, you're out of the game, Well, the music's going to end. We're all trying to dance, but the music ends. So we're trying to have a permanent state of happiness. That's our drive. To sustain our youth, to sustain our happiness, to sustain our circle of friends. And yet, we're against the material nature which is constantly mutable. So just a priori, the equation doesn't add up. Happiness equals permanent state. Yet I'm trying to find happiness based on conditions which by definition are changing. You follow my picture? Just a priori, from the beginning of the thing. I want permanent happiness, and I'm trying to find it through temporary situations. How's that going to work out? Anyone see the inherent collision course there? So, and I need a time. There we go. Because I do want to leave some time for questions. So much for that. Is time getting a revenge on me? You see it? Oh, there it is. Well, that explains that. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. So, what to do? Now that, what is it? We were talking about Hobbes, who says what is nasty, brutish, and short. His analysis, life is, am I going to leave you here? What is the use? I want permanent happiness, and I'm in a temporary place. I got all the odds stacked against me. It's just happiness should not be, we should not settle that happiness means, could be worse. A lot of times if you look at it, happiness as well, could be worse. I got a roof over my head. I got, I may not be wild. What they say, if you can't be with the one you love the one you're with. Well, he's not perfect, but that's what we'll carry on. He snores at night, eats crackers in bed, but he pays the rent, so all right, whatever. I'll carry on. He's father of my kids, I got to deal with it. Whatever it may be. We make all kinds of it could be worse. Is that actually happiness? Or, I'm happy today. I went to the beach, the sun was shining, nobody was agitating me, I had a day off work, I had a book I liked to read or whatever it was, I had a day at the beach. For the moment, the wrecking ball is not coming through the window. Is that happiness? A moment's relief. Or Srila Prabhupada says, if I have an itch and I scratch it, is that really happiness? It's just counteracting. I'm hungry, I feel my belly. I got an itch, I scratch it. Is that really the best we can do? And the whole time it's riddled with anxiety because we know it's not going to last long. Let me just, Stay at the beach and watch the sunset, because when I go home, tomorrow's Monday, you know. It's so foolish. What is it? Thank God it's Friday? Because, you know, they're slaving away. I got 2 days off. And, you know, if you're young, because we're living in Pacific Beach, they just make complete idiots out of themselves. Friday night, Saturday night. And so I live in an apartment complex. I watch them drag out of bed. Off they schlep, you know, into the gray world of gloom, you know, with a hangover, or who knows what foolish thing they did. Is that happiness? Is that what we're all about? But that's, you know, when you take a cold analysis, and even, let's give you the best credit. I was saying this morning, sometimes you see an old couple, and they're still holding hands, and you think, isn't that sweet? They still love. Actually, they're holding hands because if they let go, they're so old they'll fall over. That's really what's going on here. It's a structural issue. It's not really. But let's give it to them. Let's say that they've actually got some deep love. It can't happen sometimes. I'm not going to discount the, you know, the flash of lightning in the storm. But how long does it last? Ultimately, it all comes to dust. And I tell you an interesting feature. I've studied the matter carefully. The older you get, the faster time goes. And I was, no one will argue it. Especially when you get old. I'm 70. The older, I'm telling you, man. People say, oh, last year. I say, you lost a year. I lost a decade. I can't figure out what happens. Where did it go? Just as a sidelight, my analysis is that if you live suppose you're 6 years old, then 1 year is a sixth of your life. That's a big chunk. If you're 70 years old, 1 year of your life is only 1/70th. I'm sure there's other factors at play, but the older, so, you know, it's gone just like that. What happened? Jai, we'll end there. So, no. We were saying that an honest analysis of that, of seeing the world in its reality. I'm not going to, well, I don't want to say, I'll just say it and then I'll say the other thing. If we see the world, which is an honest analysis of the thing, you've got your Hobbes, I'll say it, what is it? Nasty, brutish, and short. There's a cold analysis of material life. Or they say, you've got the existentialist, hey, listen, you know, forget the sugarcoating, forget all the dreaming that there's a soul and consciousness. It's just brain function. There's no man in the sky that's going to save everything. We're not going anywhere. You know, plant me under a tree, I'm fertilizer, I'm gone. Then the argument becomes, it's the existential thing. The argument is, well, do I commit suicide or not? That's really the only question. Do I drag on and eke a little bit of, you know, I put something on my tongue and it tastes good? Or do I just there's so much suffering, just pull the plug and get it over with? I mean, that's pretty cold, but it's an honest analysis. Now, that's part one. Now we're going to move to part two. If it's a mistake, because our question was, and if that's reality, it is a lonely place. It is. There's the old, you see the bumper sticker says, if you're not paranoid, you haven't been paying attention. Wow. If you actually strip it of all the, you know, Hallmark greeting card. Every cloud has a silver lining. It's always darkest before the dawn. Got to take the bitter with the sweet. These are all rationales for just grinding on. Wow. But what is a Vaishnava vision? What is the actual vision? If I have a number line, and we're going to, how much time do we have? If I have, you know, a number line? It has 0, and it goes 0 to infinity minus, you know, n to the nth power. Okay? Is that a number line? Full understanding of a number line? Help me out here.
To the other side, the negative.
Yeah, man. Somebody's nodding there. Yes. So there's our little friend, but at least he's outside. So what's the other side of the number line? There's the whole positive dimension. If I have why does the shadow of the hand have 5 fingers? Assuming you've got 5, whatever. So, there is a tailor in Vrindavan who's got 6 fingers. You know that guy? Yeah, he gets extra business. He has an extra edge on you. So, it's true. But why does here's a big hint. Why does the shadow of the hand have 5 fingers? Because the hand has 5 fingers. Krishna gives an example in Bhagavad Gita that this world is a reflection. Was it Ulamulam? Yeah. So if I have a reflection, if I'm looking at a lake, and I see on the bank of the lake, I look in the water, and I see a nice mango or an apple or a ripe peach tree in the water. I can see the apples, I can see the peaches, I can see the mangoes. And I jump in the water to get them. What is my experience? There's nothing there. I'm cold and wet and disappointed. Do I say like the sour grapes? They weren't. There's no reality. It's all just illusion. Is that a proper conclusion? What's the proper conclusion? Looking at the reflection and finding it has no substance. Does that mean there is no substance? That other than you. Give them a chance. I'm trying to get them to think here, buddy. They're all going to go to sleep or look at their phones if you keep answering everything. So, if I find there's no substance in the shadow, does that mean there is no substance? Help me out. No. What does it mean? Substance is there, but it's somewhere else. I'm not looking in the right place. So, number line coming to 0 just to relieve your suffering, to mitigate the struggles, that's not reality. That's not the full spectrum. What do they say? If somebody has a 180, is that the full? I got 180 view. Horizon is 180. Straight line is 180. Is that the full picture? Basic geometry. What's the full picture? 360 means you see the whole, not just half, you see the whole circle. So the Vedas, we have to have, this is what we're about. This is what the Vedic literature is about. This is what all the great saints and sages in every bona fide tradition from time immemorial. We are looking at a coiled rope and thinking it's a snake. And it's scary as hell. You ever walk into, I don't know, if you've been India, subtropic, and even we got rattlesnakes, sidewinders. You walk into a place and it's dimly lit, and you see, whoa! And you say, oh, it's just a rope. You're not scared at all. The object has not changed. Your conception of the object has changed. You follow? The rope was a rope. You thought it was a snake. When your illusion was cleared and you knew it was a rope, you became relieved from fear. So the thing is, as I've been explaining, or trying to, if we see reality, wait a minute. This body, we define, generally speaking, the mode of thinking, what we're culturally conditioned. The average American under hypnosis can remember 365 commercial jingles. And they're all false hopes. Coke is the real thing. Nike, just do it. Shouldn't you think before you do it? There's all that's planted in our head. And it creates our ethos. It creates our goals. It creates our vision. Someone said to my spiritual master, this is many years ago. Now people are used to mantras and meditation, all that stuff. But somebody said, this chanting is brainwashing. Prabhupada's purity and innocence. He said, if the brain is dirty, shouldn't you wash it? All of those conceptions are in the head. So wait a minute. Education, the Latin root of the word education, it doesn't mean to accumulate facts and figures so you can get a good bank balance. That's not the purpose. They used to call a Renaissance person someone who actually became educated, values, ethos, culture, could see. That was an education. Now it's just, get a degree, go into IT, make a ton of money, and. But education, the Latin root of the word education means to draw from darkness into light. To draw forth, to bring out as from darkness into light. So what is that light? What is that spiritual education that all the great saints and sages have been saying since time immemorial? Let's start with one. Right now, now we're thinking one thing, but it's something else. We're looking at the rope, and we're thinking it's a snake. We're thinking this body is our source of enjoyment. I got 9, the Vedas say there's 9 gates, 9 holes, and we're trying to titillate, as many as possible, as long as possible. But what if that's not who we are? What if, because we know that matter meeting matter is a temporary equation. It's constantly mutable. It's under the influence of... It's not going to work. Let's look at it for a minute. Just step back for a moment. Just cold analysis. There's so many bodies. There's monkey bodies, rabbit bodies. I don't know what. Elephant bodies, cow bodies, so many different bodies. Now, an elephant, if eating is the goal of life, elephants can eat, I don't know how much they eat, bales of hay, or out there in the forest. Somebody told me the figure one time from the San Diego Zoo. They pack it away, trust me. They are not snacking. They're packing it. So if the goal of life is eating, then is this body designed for it? If I eat 3 scoops of ice cream, what to speak of me, it'll kill me. But, we have a very limited saturation. But how much can we eat? I'll be graphic. Boyfriend, girlfriend, all that business. Rabbits have us beaten, hands down. Pigeons have us beaten. We get disease, we get senile. So many. How many kids can you maintain? In archaeology, they have, function from form. They're always digging out there for pot shards and trying to, put the thing together. And so they put it together and they say, oh, this must be for holding grains, and this must have been to this was for olive oil, therefore it was an agrarian society. From the form, they figure out the function. Now, as I said in the beginning, eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, these are animal functions. Look at this body compared to other bodies. Is it designed for mating? No way. Is it designed for eating? Certainly not. Is it designed for sleeping? Bears go down for 6 months? Some of us may try for it, You may go for a Sunday on a marathon. Prabhupada calls sleep the sweet taste of death. Usually it's such anxiety that at least if I can just unplug, if I just don't have to think about things, I'm very happy. I'm just the sweet taste of death. I just sleep, And even then you got bad dreams. So it's not eating, it's not sleeping, it's not mating, certainly not defending. My famous example, put Bruce Lee, or who's big now? Do we know who's the heavyweight champion of the world? Put him in one corner and put a Bengal tiger in the other corner. Who are you going to bet on? We don't gamble, but who would you bet on? Who's going to win that one? He's a snack item for that tiger. That tiger, he's an hors d'oeuvre, and then he's ready he's going to go for us as the main course, So, function from form. This body is not designed for that. But think about it. Prabhupada gave a great example. Prabhupada walked in the Calcutta Zoo one time. It's a whole story. We'll tell some other time. But when he walked, we could write a book, Lessons from the Calcutta Zoo. But when Prabhupada got out, he turned to the devotees that were walking with him, said, so what did we learn today? Prabhupada always liked to ask a question and make us think. What did we learn today from the zoo? Prabhupada said, we learned that intelligence is better than strength. Because the gorilla, the elephant, the tiger, the lion, the 25-foot python, they're all in cages. And who's not in the cage? Who put them in the cages and is watching them? The human beings, because intelligence is better than strength. So if we look at it, what is the unique feature of the human form of life? It's intelligence. And Vedanta Sutra begins, Janmadasa yataha atato brahma jigyasya. That now that you have a human intelligence, ask what's eternal. Ask what's actually going on. What is the purpose? So, back to our theme of education and what is the purpose of human form of life, how to relieve tension, stress, anxiety. If one understands the other side of the coin, the reflection, okay, we've explained, but if they understand the substance, the 180, what's the other side? The negative, what's the positive? We are not this body. We're eternal spirit, soul. Death is not the end. We're not too fat. We don't have to worry about Botox. We don't have to worry about, whatever it is. Am I tall enough? Am I thin enough? Am I cute enough? Am I fast enough? It doesn't matter. It's got nothing to do with me. It's amazingly freeing. And fear of death, like Socrates when they gave him hemlock, said, now we're finished with you, because he was stirring up the youth by getting them to ask questions. Now we're finished. Anyone know Socrates, other than Dravida? Anyone know Socrates' famous answer? As they had him in jail, and he drank hemlock, now we're finished. What did he say? So they say, first you have to catch me. First you have to catch me. Because the soul is deathless. It's amazingly relieving. All the ways we're manipulated for bodily, what is it? Bodily identity, there's a name for it. When you identify with, how you look. It's amazingly freeing. Hello to you. Bodily image. Completely manipulated by bodily image. We're free from all that. Free from anxiety, free from fear. Now, what about loneliness? He comes at this time every time. What about loneliness? Because it is a lonely place. First off, how many people really know us? And frankly, we think if they really knew me, would they still love me? So it's a big issue for people, and rightly so. And can I really trust them? There's people bail out. People, they go. It actually happened to our next door neighbor. The man went home and found out that his wife had changed the locks on the house, emptied the bank accounts, and ran off with her dentist. And men do the same thing. I've been at airports because I travel a lot. I've seen the wife, the mother of his children, the man who's, worked and put him through college and all that, just gave her life to the guy. And you see him getting dropped off at the airport. And she's got to get back, get the kids to school. She just got up because she went to bed at 12 o'clock at night, She hasn't all primmed and primed, She's got her house coat on and whatever, And he gives her a little peck on the cheek and bye, off they go. And I've seen the guy many times walk into the terminal and there's a torrid embrace. He's not going on a business trip. He's flying off to Florida with his mistress. So, it's happening out there. So who do we really trust? Who really loves us? Who really knows us? And even if you do get it in the right groove, how long does it last? But Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Suhridam Sarvabhutanam. Two things. Suhridam Sarvabhutanam means that Krishna is the best friend of everyone. Think about it. It's described in the Katha Upanishad. It gives a nice analogy. There's a tree. Picture a tree with fruit. Picture an orchard. That's better. Picture an orchard of fruit trees. And the bird is flying from tree to tree. One bird is flying from tree to tree looking for fruit. But all the fruit's bitter. It's peck, 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 it's bitter. Flying to another tree. Peck, 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 bitter. Flying, flying, flying. That's like the living entity, us, the jiva soul. The tree is like the body, and the fruit is what we're trying to enjoy. And the different trees in the orchard is like lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. We're flying from tree to tree to tree looking for happiness. And it's not happening for all the reasons I've described. But what else, according to Katha Upanishad, is also with us in that analogy? Dravida Prabhu. There's another bird, a beautiful other bird, traveling with us from tree to tree to tree. That is Krishna as the super soul. You arrived late, so you're off the hook. Don't answer it. Shut it off. Kill the beast. Don't worry, it'll be all right. It'll take care of itself later on. Don't even look at it. People without phones go through the same symptoms. They took away phones from people Just for one day, they had the exact same, brain rush, chemical release, anxiety, heart rate as people getting off an addiction. From heroin or whatever it may be. Same. Oh! So back to our point, which was, friend, suhridam sarvabhutanam. Krishna says, I am the best friend. He's with us lifetime after lifetime. He never gives up. They call tough love, or, there's so many stories. 1984, love has a breaking point. Like you got a kid who becomes a drug addict, cleans out your house, rips off grandmother's gold fillings. You comes to a point, hey, I'm changing the locks. I'm done with you. I wish you well, but at a distance. Love has a breaking point. But Krishna, since we've entered into this material world, is with us life after life after life after life. Radhanath Maharaj says guilt is sign of supersoul. That little voice, oh man, you feel bad about it. That's Krishna saying, hey, don't do that. And it didn't work out for you. That's bad. Go this way, go this way. So Krishna's whispering to us in our heart and staying with us. He never, ever gives up. There's another, Bhavagrihi Janardanam. It's a little sutra I like, which means that Krishna's in the heart of everyone. He knows our heart. We think, well, people really knew me, they wouldn't love me. All of us have our public persona. Gopi Purandana said something that was just fantastic. And he's anyway, one of the great scholars and teachers in our tradition. And I think he's quoting Rupa Goswami. I've never found the verse, I'm looking for it. But the closer, one of the symptoms that one's advancing in spiritual life is that one's internal self is aligned with our external self, what we present to the world. When those two are in sync, when the kind, thoughtful, surrendered to Krishna person we want to be, when that person aligns with our internal self, when that's actually who we are, that's one of the stages of self-realization. But Krishna knows us. So there's always that dichotomy that, I'm not who people really knew me, or they didn't know I did this, or, whatever it may be, There's that tension in the material world until we become pure devotees of Krishna. But Krishna knows that. Bhavagrihi Janardanam. Krishna knows my heart. He knows that I'm trying. He knows who I really am. He knows that I'm eternal, spirit, soul, full of knowledge, full of happiness, full of bliss. I am that better angel. Krishna knows that. And he's just working on us. He's just like Michelangelo. Michelangelo, when he would look at a block of stone, most of they sketch it out. They sketch out the thing, and then they have a model and everything. Michelangelo usually would just go at it. Somebody asked him why. He said, I can see it. I can see it inside. I just have to remove everything. He actually saw the thing, like, David or La Pieta or whatever, and he was just chipping away the excess stuff he didn't need because he could see it inside. Krishna can see us. He knows who we are, and he's with us lifetime after life, and he never gives up. Now that's a friend. That's our best friend. Prabhupada said, you think you're sitting on the floor? I'm sitting in the hand of Krishna. So someone who sees and then why is there difficulty? Come on, man, I'm trying to serve Krishna and this happened and Because if we think that this world is crafted for us to enjoy, even though we can see all the reasons that it doesn't work out for that, what is the purpose of this world? What's the time? Whoa. If I have a hammer, if I have a screwdriver, and I'm using it as a hammer, I'm banging away, I'm trying to pull on it. This damn thing doesn't work. What's wrong with this thing? What's wrong? Trying to use a screwdriver as a hammer. Don't overthink it. It's not the tool for the job. It's not what it's designed for. Get a hammer, it'll work fine. Get a screwdriver, it'll work fine. So we're trying to make this material nature an enjoyable, materially enjoyable place. It's not designed like that. It's the coal. You can't wash it. Can't make it clean. You're never going to make a screwdriver into a hammer. It's just not happening. It's not designed like that. So if we but used for its proper purpose. Well, I guess I'll say it this way. Does not that thing therapeutically treated, Narada Muni says in the Bhagavatam, does not that thing therapeutically treated become the cure of the self-same disease? The example given is if I drink too much milk or overindulge in milk products, it'll blow out the digestive system. But one of the cures is taking a little bit of yogurt, in or out. It's always a circus going on. One of the cures is you take a little bit of yogurt. Now, yogurt is milk. It's just transformed. It's therapeutically treated. If we understand, if we think that the purpose of this world is to enjoy, the world is my pearl. No, it's not. And but there is a purpose. Like if I know that a screwdriver is intended to be a screwdriver and a hammer is intended to be a hammer, and I use it for its purpose, I'm not frustrated. I'm successful in my work. If we understand that the purpose of this world is not to try to squeeze out some paltry enjoyment, but it's meant for education. Prabhupada calls difficulty in this world, for a devotee, for someone who's trying to advance in spiritual life. The difficulties are, Krishna says, what is it? They are therapeutically treated. Suffering is therapeutically treated by the beneficent hand of the merciful Lord. So it's therapy. Actually, what's happening, there's a reason. There's a lesson to be learned. Prabhupada said one time, we cannot change conditions. I've described the material nature. What do we have control over? We don't have control over conditions. What do we have control over? How you respond to conditions. If we act through knowledge, wait a minute, this difficult thing is coming. And instead of trying to, try to reverse the course of the Mississippi River, if we accept, hey, this is happening to me, why? Behind it must be the therapeutic hand of Krishna. Therapeutic means this is sent to cure a disease. There's a lesson to be learned here. Why is this happening? And if we prayerfully approach things in life, why is this happening? Look in the Shastra, look in the Vedic literatures. There's so many things that devotees go through, and there's lessons to be learned. Ask sadhus, ask saintly people, hey, well, why is this happening? There'll be deep insight. And then, though that suffering becomes a lesson, becomes a roadmap, becomes a step towards happiness. In or out, my friend, in or out? Now it's everyone. This is Mr. Prakash, our old friend. Can someone help him get a chair? I think that's a sign to stop. Nice to see you, Prakash. Krishna says, I was sitting in Prabhupada's room one time, back to this point of loneliness, anxiety, feeling incomplete. If we know that Krishna is in my heart, if we don't think I'm out all alone against cold material nature, but Krishna's, stay with me, folks. He'll get sorted out. Stay with me. Because this is the conclusion. Prabhupada was sitting in his room one time. It was a cold day, at least for us in the West, in Los Angeles, New Dwarka. Everybody's wearing chadars, everyone's wearing caps, everyone's all, as they say in Australia, all rugged up. And Prabhupada was sitting, you can see Prabhupada's quarters, you go to Los Angeles. Prabhupada was sitting behind his desk. There was a big window, rectangle window behind it. And you know how the clouds will part sometimes and a ray of light will come down like a spotlight? We've all seen that, In the darkness, there will be a shaft of light. Thank you, Prabhu. In that so all of a sudden, the clouds parted, at least one area, and a shaft of light came down, and it just went right through Prabhupada's window. It was framed by Prabhupada, and it was just like you turned a spotlight. Prabhupada was in this square spotlight of warm sunshine. And we were all in darkness, both figuratively and literally. And Prabhupada, who didn't miss a thing, could definitely, he always picked up the vibe of a situation. Prabhupada looked up and said, yes. He said, someday you will feel this sunlight like your lover's embrace. So someone who actually understands, I'm spirit soul, I'm part and parcel of Krishna, I'm in this material world for some reason, let me learn by what's happening, let me purify myself, let me become more Krishna conscious, pure consciousness. One experiences, I'm not sitting on the floor, I'm sitting in the hand of Krishna. I'm not the whims of material nature. Krishna's therapeutic hand is trying to purify me. When I drink water, Krishna says, I'm the pure taste of water. I smell a flower, Krishna's the fragrance of the earth. He's the light of the sun and the moon. I feel surrounded by love and support, by Krishna who loves me no matter what. That's not an excuse to be a fool. But that's the cure for loneliness. That's the cure for anxiety. To understand, if you're trying to stack the cards with the material nature, you're always going to be a loser. The house always wins. But if you see this is a pathway back home, back to Godhead, every step is progress and happiness. I'll end with one last thing. Okay, great. You expect me to believe that? That's wishful thinking. It's just sentiment. What's the proof? Let me ask you a question. If you're hungry and you sit down for a good meal, you're hungry, you're tired, you're frustrated. We've all had that experience. And you sit down and you have a good meal. And so it goes. You sit down and you have a good meal. Does anyone need to tell you you're becoming satisfied? You know it. I'm going to go a little further. Even before you finish that meal, as soon as you start taking it, you feel refreshed, isn't it? You feel, hey, if I just stay with it, finish the sandwich, the bowl of soup, the nice samosa, whatever it is, I'm going to be great. So it's experiential that you know you're on the right path. This is called rati, or dawning of love of God. When the sun comes up, in other words, how do we know? Okay, we understand the material nature. We know what the alternative is. But how do I have confidence? As you practice it, you realize it. I'm going to say that again. That's what we're about. How do you realize it? As you practice it, you realize it. Anyone sat, and this is the last thing I'm going to say, take a seat, because you're distracting the folks, just because it's the last thing I'm going to say. If I'm looking, when the sun comes up, now, I can look on my clock. I've got my phone. There is an exact moment that the sun comes over the horizon. There is a fixed moment that happens. But how do we experience the sun coming? How do we know the sun is coming? It's all dark. Just, do a little thought exercise. It's all dark. And all of a sudden, not all of a sudden, gradually, that's important. Hey, my little friend, don't worry, we're almost done. Gradually, the gray, you see shades of gray. You start seeing amorphous forms, isn't it? It's no longer just monolithic black. You see some shades of forms. Then things start to become washed with a little bit of color, isn't it? Then you think, oh, that's a tree, that's a house, that's a bush, here's the path. You get some confidence of what's happening. And even though there is a moment that the sun comes over the horizon, before the sun comes over the horizon, you have complete confidence. Is it blind faith that the sun is coming? Yeah, everything's bright, everything's clear. You know, the sun's coming. That's called rati, or dawning. In the same way as one practices genuine spiritual life, you get confident. The fog clears. Things become shape, takes form. You understand reality. And there ultimately, just as there's a moment when the sun comes over the horizon, there will be a moment that we meet Krishna face to face. That is the purpose of human life. Do not waste it. Okay, we're over time. Thank you very much. Oh, we're done, right? Now we have one more thing to do. Don't worry. No. We're going to do these diplomas. We have... You can grab them for me. One of you guys. Are the two folks here? Justin's here. Who was the other person? Stevie's here. Balaram Prabhu teaches, many of you know Balaram, he's our senior brahmachari and a very wonderful devotee. He's in India for a month on pilgrimage. I just checked with him, he's in Mayapur now. He's in the birthplace of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. From there he'll go to Vrindavan. So, he teaches what's called the Disciples Course. It's training, it teaches, okay, I want to learn more about this. I want to learn what it means to become a serious devotee. How do I do it? It's an art to the thing. It's a science to the thing. If I want to know Krishna, I've got to build the relationship. Any kind of friendship, you got to invest in it, isn't it? You get to know the person. You give them some gift. You reveal your mind. They reveal it. You have conversations. That you do something. You offer some service. They reciprocate. That's how any kind of relationship builds. We want, show me God. Okay, I've got some faith. As we practice it, that's called seva. As we practice devotional service, as we get richer in knowledge, as we practice sadhana, we chant Krishna's holy name, which is purifying, a relationship develops. So Balaram teaches a course called the Disciples Course. And these two do, how long does it take? Is it, can you do it at home?
Yeah, it takes 2 or 3 weeks.
Takes 2 or 3 weeks, if you're smart.
We do it virtually.
So, but sometimes we teach it in person, sometimes we teach it online. It's a whole lot of fun, and it gives you a good foundation for spiritual life. So these two devotees have finished that Disciples Course, and the first goes to Justin Miller. Are you still in the Navy?
I'm in the Army now.
In the Army. Sorry about that. So and how, do you mind me asking? Yeah, congratulations. And how old are you? 44 years old, responsible man in the Army, and he took the Disciples Course. And you feel the better for it? Thank you. Congratulations, Prabhu. And this is for Steven Santos, affectionately known as Stevie. He's a young man. He's got a professional life, so many different things. And here he is. So Krishna's for everyone. You're most welcome. Congratulations. All right. So we'll have kirtan. Thank you. We'll have kirtan and then a nice feast. And our Mukunda Charana Prabhu is back. So we have a double team back in the kitchen now. We have Saul Prabhu and Mukunda Charana. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you for a wonderful discussion.